Good afternoon. Thanks so much for tuning in for Team B Spring Curriculum Night. Narvette Kelly, the Curriculum Resource Teacher at RSGA. On your screen, you will see an agenda for this evening's event. We will open with me sharing information about iReady data and resources that can help your child at home. Then Team B attendees will have an opportunity to learn what's happening in language arts with Mrs. Kaysen and with Mrs. Parks in mathematics. Then we will go over the questions you submitted in advance in a feature called Ask It Basket. And if there's time remaining at the end, it's an opportunity for anyone to ask questions and to share. So we'll go ahead and get started. On your screen, you should see an iReady diagnostic report. These are results from the second iReady diagnostic that was done by our school. This is a sample student, and for that reason, the name has been redacted. We're going to briefly talk about iReady progress, how to read the report, and some resources that you can use at home to meet your child's needs. This is a reading iReady report for the most recent assessment, which occurred in January and February of 2021. It was our second diagnostic assessment. In looking at the report, between the first diagnostic and the second diagnostic, you'll see some information that didn't appear on the first diagnostic. For this particular sample student, the student's score is at the bottom, but it's important to note the information at the top. For the middle of the year, on grade level progress is a score of 616 or higher. If you notice a bold green bar, that shows the level where a student typically should perform at the middle of sixth grade. A shaded area appears showing you what on grade level performance is, and that is the range for on grade level performance. And that would be a score of 598 to 653. If you look at the student's diagnostic score, this student scored a 617, which is considered as on grade level performance. It shows you the level that the student is at. If you see mid sixth, that's the middle of sixth grade. The thing to really look for is the dot that appears. If your child has a green dot in this portion of the report, it means that they are performing on grade level or higher. If your child has a yellow dot in this particular section, it means that they're scoring one grade level below. And if it's a red dot, it means that they're scoring 2 or more grade levels below. The most important thing you should see on this particular report is a plus sign and an arrow going up. What that means is that your child made growth between the first diagnostic and the second diagnostic. The thin blue line shows where your child scored on the first diagnostic, and the top of the bar is where your child is now. The next thing you'll see is where it says typical and stretch. Typical in that bar means that this indicates what a year's growth would be for your child. For every student, that number is going to be different. For this student, it's 597. The next dotted bar is what's called stretch growth. At RSGA, we typically look at this for our students who are scoring red and who are scoring yellow. It shows what the student would need to perform in order to make more than a year's worth of growth. You see the descriptions for those over on the left side. And stretch growth means that this is what a child would need to perform in order to catch up and hopefully achieve on grade level performance. Even though this student did not necessarily need a stretch goal, this student's performance indicates that at the mid-year assessment, the student surpassed the typical goal and the stretch goal, which means this child has already made more than a year's growth, which is phenomenal. You want to see an error going up that's as close to this typical line as possible if your child's score is below that typical growth goal. But the important thing is to look for that plus sign and that error going up, because it means that your child is learning this year. If you move over to the right, you see the overall score at the very top. Students are scored in 6 areas. Typically for 6th grade, we look at the last 3 because the first 3 are typically mastered by the time children reach 6th grade. If not, if on your child's report you see something other than tested out, that gives you an indicator that those would be some areas where your child will need more support. For this particular student, the student's vocabulary score is early 6th grade, which means that's typical of the beginning of the year, as is the student's literature score. And literature means fiction. Informational text is nonfiction, and this student scored at a late 6th grade level, which is like end of 6th grade. So this is not typical of our students at RSGA. Our kids typically perform better in fiction or literature reading, but we're going over this so that you can see how to read the report. Before we talk about this next section, because there's some resources we're going to discuss, for vocabulary, literature, and informational text, if you go past page 1, for each section of the iReady test, this is not the report that we typically send to our parents. We're sharing it with those of you all who are in attendance tonight or who are watching the recording of this presentation. We adapted the report that teachers have access to so that for each one of these sections, you can see how your child scored in that particular area, what your child has demonstrated that they can do, and then some next steps. The resources that are listed here are not available to parents. They're attached to our online iReady account, and teachers have access to those. But we wanted you to at least see the skills that would give you an idea of the next things that you can work on with your child, like working with multiple meaning words, working with similes and metaphors. So it gives you an idea of those skills. And this is for each domain that appears on this assessment. Going back to the first page, the next thing we will take a look at is the national norm and Lexile performance of the students. National norm means how does this student's performance compare to the initial group of students that took this diagnostic test when the diagnostic test was being tested for effectiveness. An ideal score would be at the 50th percentile or higher. Typically, that would be within or above the grade level range. So we look for 50th percentile or higher. This particular student scored a 75th percentile. If your child is below the 50th percentile, don't be alarmed by that. The most important thing to look at is the plus sign and this arrow going up, because it means that they're getting closer and closer to meeting that mark. Lexile measures are used to test or to measure what's called the complexity of texts. And to explain what that means, it means, in terms of readability and opportunities to engage in more critical thought, this measure is used to determine where a child is at understanding texts that are at a specific level. We're going to visit Understanding Lexile Measures. A part of the resources you've already received is a copy of this document, Understanding Lexile Measures. And so, the document is entitled Parent Guide. What it does, if you want a more in-depth understanding than what I shared tonight, Lexile Measures are one tool you can use to help you find books that are at your child's independent reading level. These are some sample books that are at different levels so that you can see. And it shows you here that to be college and career ready, a student would need to have a Lexile of at least 1,300. Well, our babies are sixth graders, so we don't expect them to be at a 1,300 at this age, but it gives you a benchmark as to what you can use. What I like about this document is that it explains how you can monitor your child's reading over time and how you can use these measures. At school, Lexile measures can be used to determine a child's accelerated reader level in sixth grade. Once they leave sixth grade, students no longer do the accelerated reader program, but we still encourage nightly reading in order to build vocabulary, in order to build comprehension, also to build stamina for longer texts. But on the second page of this document, there's a step-by-step guide on how to use the measures. Your child's Lexile measure is on their iReady report, and it gives a Lexile range. The next step is finding just right books. There's a link that we're about to visit in a moment where we're going to show you how to use a tool that can give you some ideas on some books that are just right for a child at your particular child's level. And there's a way that you can monitor their growth from grade to grade. The idea is for Lexile levels to consistently go up over time. We're going to take a look at a Find a Book feature. We're going to talk about vocabulary and word lists. And there's a feature called Growth Planner at the site that we're about to visit. Before we visit that site, and the link is inside of the document that we sent, we're going to go back for just a moment and look at the report. The domains that are listed here have alignment with our learning standards for sixth grade for the state of Florida. iReady performance has been closely aligned with how students will perform on the FSA, or the Florida Standards Assessment. So it's become a tool that our district has become pretty reliant on in terms of helping our students practice and to grow stronger over time. Another document you received for your specific child is a Florida Standards document. There's one for reading and there's one for mathematics. For these documents, by domain, they list all of the Florida standards for sixth grade. And for each domain, based on your child's most recent iReady score, there's a key. It shows, based on the performance in January, February, whether your child has shown a good level of mastery of standards. If you see green, if you see a check mark that is clear, that means that your child is understanding some of the skills associated with the standard, but it's a conservative assessment. And anywhere you see an X means back in January or February, at that time, your child has not demonstrated a sufficient understanding of the skills that are aligned. Just keep in mind when you're looking at the report that the assessment was taken in January, February, which means there have been a couple of months that have passed. So even if you see an X in an area on this report, then since that time, they may have demonstrated more mastery and more growth. So in terms of vocabulary, it says acquisition and use. You can just look at vocabulary. This will give you an idea in terms of the standards that the kids are learning for 6th grade, where they were in January or February. For informational text, you can see where our sample student was performing at that time. Anywhere you see an X means this is an area where your child probably still needs more practice, okay? Because if there's a clear check mark, if there's been consistent practice since that January assessment, they've probably demonstrated that they're a little closer to mastery. But for each domain, you are able to see by standard what the kids have shown mastery of and where they're still working and developing. So we wanted to provide that to you as well. Okay, we're about to visit the website that was indicated on the parent guide. Before we go there, I wanted to show you the next document you received was how to use these measures to help your child find a book. So from either this site or from the previous resource that was shared, you click on the web link, hub.lexile.com. You already have this link in the resources we share. Okay, now we're on the website where these resources are. You'll see at the top that it says Lexile and Quantile tools. If you go over to where it says all tools, there's a drop-down menu. Go down to where it says tools for parents, and it shows you the tools that are available that are geared towards parents. One of the features on here is find a book. And if your child needs help selecting books, this is a site that is available for that. You put the child's Lexile measure in, it automatically inputs the range. And you can either go ahead and click search. And it shows you a sampling of books that are within your child's reading range. And you can keep clicking everywhere it says see 25 more books. You can keep clicking forever, or you can go back and instead of just doing a broad search based on the kinds of things your child is interested in, like if your child is interested in animals, but they also like fiction, nonfiction, and poetry, and they also like science fiction and fantasy, you're able to choose more than one of these at a time if you register for this site. Registration is free. I'm going to go ahead and log in so that you can see how this feature works. You don't have to register, but if you do, you have access to more features. I'm going to go ahead and sign in. If you don't have an account, you register for one, it's free. There are some premium features that are available, but those come with a cost. Everything you'll need, you can use with the free account. So we're going to go back to where we were before. We're going to select our areas of interest. And what it has is subcategories where, based on whatever area, if you select one of these areas, I'm going to go ahead and do animals, bugs, and pets. You're able to go here and select a specific subcategory. For some reason, it's not locking tonight. So I'm going to clear my selections. I'm going to try again. All right, it's not letting me lock anything tonight. But it did show some of the subcategories. I had a student years ago who was interested in the paranormal. So if I click on that, and you're usually able to click on more than one category if there are a variety of interests. then click search, and it will limit the search to only books that are in the areas that you choose. So we're not going to click see 25 more books. What can be done with this, students can either search for some of these titles in our school library, or they can visit our school's websites. There's a link to a program called Capstone, which gives access to digital books that kids can search for, and students can search a site called Epic for digital books that they can read online. So the next feature that we're going to take a look at is called word lists. You received a document that looks like this. What's neat about this site is it's helpful in terms of knowing what vocabulary your child needs to master, between the grade domains of 6th grade through 8th grade. And that's general words that they'll see all the time, words in world history, civics, American history, in math, or in science. I'm going to select them all. And you can only select them all if you register. Otherwise, you can only select one. And it gives you an option if you register to search words only, or words in frequency. We recommend words in frequency, and I'm about to show you why. And you have the option of having a report generated in a spreadsheet or as a PDF. I prefer the PDF version, but I'm going to show you the spreadsheet version so that you can see it. Okay, this is the spreadsheet version of the word list. And of course, with a spreadsheet, you have options. Sometimes I download both, but I'm going to show you what this looks like as a PDF. So this is how it looks as a PDF. What this feature does is it shows you the number of times a child is likely to encounter a word between 6th and 8th grade in textbooks, in testing materials, as teachers are teaching, other materials that they may receive. And according to this guideline, and I did general words, and you see this document is 26 pages long. I also did the math words, science words, and the social studies words. But just going back up to the general list, the word that kids would generally encounter most often is the word analysis. On the math list, the terms probability and inequality are most likely to occur the most often in 6th through 8th grade. For science, the word periodic. And for social studies, the word dynasty. A recommended activity, and we don't recommend that this is all done in one day, just a few a day. Take a group of these words and just simply have someone ask your child, what does analysis mean? What does absolute mean? If your child can tell you what that word means, either check it off or cross through it. For any word that the child does not know, highlight it, circle it, put a dash by it, some kind of way to know that that's a word that needs to be revisited. Once you're done with a few words at a time, this is just a recommended activity. For each word, have 2 index cards. For both index cards, put the word on one side. Have your child look up in a dictionary or an online dictionary, and some even just simply ask Google what a word means. Have them write the definition on the back. With a group of words, play the concentration game where word is on one side, definition is on the other, and they practice matching up those words in order to build their vocabulary. We've had students who on unit tests, classroom tests, standardized tests, who in questions have asked teachers what words mean And on a test, the teacher can't tell them what the word means. And so sometimes a child may miss an answer just simply because they didn't understand the question, because they didn't understand, and that's because they didn't understand the vocabulary. So this is just a good way to build their vocabulary and build their knowledge. A lot of these words are also words that occur frequently on college entrance exams. And so it's just good to expose them to as many words as possible. And of course, they're going to experience them in school, but as much as we can work on vocabulary at home, the better that will be. Moving over to the mathematics, there's a feature there's some features that I'm going to show you with the mathematics, but just like with the language arts iReady reports, the mathematics reports are the same way. Matching up, looking at the domains where they're tested, there's a Florida standards report that is aligned with the iReady report. And just keep in mind that the students took this test either in January or in February. So depending on the amount of curriculum that's been taught since then, there's some of these skills that they're on the path to mastering. The suggestion is to look at the standards that are associated with the number system, because those are foundational in nature, and those are the skills and standards that they're going to need in order to be able to tackle most of the rest of the curriculum. Another domain that should be paid attention to, even though it's not listed on the report, you'll notice in the standards a section called expressions and equations. That section of standards is approximately 35% of what the kids will see on the Florida Standards Assessment. So take a look at those standards as well and what the next steps are for your child, and concentrate in those areas. Just like on the iReady reports, there's a norm score, and instead of a Lexile measure, there's a quantile measure. You received a report called What is the Quantile Framework? And it gives more information about the quantiles. But just like with the Lexile report, there's a How to Use Quantile Measures section. You already have the quantile measure, which is step 1. There's a feature on the same site that we just visited that's called Math at Home. So we're going to go back to that site. I didn't show you this before, but there's a menu on the side that takes you to these same tools. The Math at Home feature is here. You select the state. You select the child's grade. You can either choose whether math is easy, just right, or difficult for your child, or put in the child's quantile measure. And I'm just going to put in the number 900. If you just put in the quantile measure and click search, it shows you websites, information you can download and practice, and things that you can print out. With the web resources, some of these resources are games. Some of these resources are step-by-step activities. And if you're registered, you can add some of these sites to your resources if it turns out to be something your child likes. In terms of the children, I encourage you not to let the children register. Just let the children go on the site. But if there is a specific skill that your child needs help with, like for determining ratios, one skill kids will need is greatest common factor. So if I were to type that in and click search, for this particular child's quantile measure, nothing came back. So if that happens, sometimes you have to play with the site a little bit. Take the quantile measure out and just say that math is difficult. Click search again, and some items come up. And so there's some resources here. Some of them are videos, some are websites where they can practice. Others have step-by-step activities. There are resources you can download. There are resources you can print. And this is a tool you can use if your child needs help in a specific area. The last thing I want to show you is what's called the Summer Math Challenge. Going back to the Quantile tools, there's a link here. You can register your child, and what it does is it will ask you what grade your child is in. It will ask you what state the child is in. And see, because I'm logged into my account, you can't see the register screen because I registered a sample student. It doesn't start until the end of June because it's accommodating schools that don't finish until June. But if you sign your child up for this, you will get a reminder a few weeks before the event starts. And students will be able to log on and at their level, practice math skills over the summer so that those skills stay fresh. So hopefully some of these resources will be helpful to you. Also, there's another feature in the program that I won't have time to show you tonight, but with your child's Lexile levels, there's a growth planner feature. If you click on growth planner and put your child's Lexile score in, it will show you where your child, how your child will need to progress throughout the years. And there's a feature within that that matches careers to children. And based on what your child may want to pursue, it gives you what average Lexile levels would need to be in order to pursue learning at the college university level in terms of those kinds of careers. So with that, I'm gonna stop here because I've eaten up too much of the time, and I'm gonna turn it over to Ms. Kaysen and then Ms. Parks. So I'm gonna stop my share. And I'm gonna mute my line for Ms. Kaysen to come on.
Hey, so there's really not a ton for me to say because Ms. Kelly is. Oh, sorry. Okay. Can you hear me now? Yes, Ms. Kelly. Okay. Ms. Kelly is so thorough and awesome. She went over some awesome information for vocabulary, for reading, and I know Ms. Brown and Ms. Phillips, you guys are on my remind. So you get my messages already about the importance of reading and just what 20 minutes of reading a day can do. So I won't go into tons of detail about that. There is just a couple of quick things for this time of the year because we're in testing season. Unfortunately, it is what it is, and they are going to be testing this year. The kiddos have an Fsa Countdown Packet. It's a 4-week packet. Their week 1 was due at the beginning of this week, and they're going to have basically a passage with about 5 questions a week, and that's it. It's, if they do it at one time, it says week 1, day 2, week 1, day 3. And I say, don't do that. Don't sit down and do 1 question a day. That doesn't make sense. Just read the passage, knock it out in 30 minutes and you're done. You don't have to worry about it. So there is 4 weeks. This week, they should be doing their week 2. It'll be due Monday or Tuesday of next week. Okay. We are really working on writing. We have a Saturday workshop coming up this Saturday because our writing test is next Wednesday. So if your kiddo just needs that little bit of extra confidence boost, heading into the test day, I will be at RSGA from 9 until 12. We're going to do an entire essay together. We've already done several, but still sometimes when it's just that little, like I said, that little confidence boost. And it'll also be an opportunity, any last minute questions that they have, they'll be able to get those answers to those. I left my little agenda in the other room. I think those are the main things that I wanted to go over. If you have questions, you know how to reach out to me. You have me on reminds, KaysenM@columbiak12.com. And you can always call the front office, leave a message, and I can call you back. So lots of ways to reach me if you have questions or concerns. We have an awesome group of kids this year, and we appreciate our parents who are here and supporting or watching this at another time. I think that's it. If I have to chime back in, I will. But I guess it's Miss Parks' turn, Miss Kelly. Okay, Miss Parks, you're good to go.
Okay, Miss Kelly, if I have something to share, am I able to share my screen? I'm gonna take that as a yes. She's muted, but I can't quite hear, but I'm gonna take that as a yes. So I'm gonna, I have a list. I'm gonna go over a couple things. All right, so Miss Kaysen talked about a countdown. We have a countdown that we've started. We just finished week 3. We're gonna take a break this week and next week because we have a unit test coming up. I want to finish going over some things with the kids. Sorry, that's my baby in the background. She's playing on the floor. But we're gonna finish the unit, and then they have writing next week. So after that, we're gonna pick back up with the countdown. We're doing it in classes of bell ringers. So they come in, they sit, they do usually like 2 days. If my first period, we'll do 1 a day since I see them every day. There is a practice online. It's a session 1, session 2. It's a paper-based practice. We will do that in class in May, right before our test, to get them ready. So if you pull that up and you're like, oh, I found this, please don't do that at home. We will do that together, and we'll kind of get, buffer a couple, skills that we need to buffer. Students are having teacher assigned lessons. A lot of it's covering geometry skills. A lot of times geometry gets cut short because we just are short on time. So we're, plugging that in here and there. So we're taking that as a grade, make sure it's getting done. It is being, a completion grade and then the grade that they're getting. So if you're seeing grades and it says assigned already lesson, that's what that is. It's, a lot of geometry lessons that we just need them to have exposure to. Continue working on iReady to fill gaps with the advanced kiddos. What I'm going to do is the lessons they did at the beginning of the year, I'm going to plug them back in. I'm going to reassign those just to give them, freshen up because, they forget things that we've learned in, the first 9 weeks. Kids that need to do iReady or want help with iReady, they're more than welcome to join me in the morning. They can come up after 8:15. We can work together. I can help them because some, just don't want to do it by themselves. I'm more than willing to do that. So if they want to come up and join me in the mornings, I'm there. And if, I have a meeting or a conference, I may say can't do it today, but I'm available definitely in the mornings. We're going to have a math boot camp on April 17th and May 1st. Those are Saturdays from 9 to 11. I don't know specifically yet who is invited. I just heard about today, but I will let everybody know. We will get that information out, but it will be 2 hours here, 2 hours on the first one, 2 hours on the second one. I will be there and a couple other math teachers will be there just to kind of give everybody, just like Ms. Kaysen said, extra practice. I'm going to show this really quick, and if I show this, then those of you that are watching will be able to see it. So let me share my screen. Okay, so I just typed this up really quick. These are just skills that students are weak on, skills that students need a little practice on, ratios and rates, or rates, unit rates, ratios. We went through this tons and tons and tons, and even after we worked on this forever and ever, kids still had trouble with it, and it's been a little bit. Percents, dividing fractions was at the beginning of the year. We're doing it again right now. They don't remember, so we're going over it again. They need practice. Order of operations with exponents, finding volume, area, perimeter, dividing decimals, and just dividing with whole numbers. So these are just skills. If you feel like, what can I help my kids with? These are definitely areas that they can work on, all of them. My low, medium, high, advanced, all of them. Some areas that they can do practice on. There's a website, IXL. They can do that. Ms. Kelly said expressions. We're doing expressions right now in inequalities, and it's a struggle for all of them. So that's definitely something they can work on, and we're working on that currently right now in the classroom. And then websites that provide worksheets. These are a few below. Math worksheets for kids, math salamanders, and futuristic math. I apologize. She's very social. So these are just good to know areas where, if you're looking for something, where can I go to help my kiddo, or what can I do to work on with them? These are just some things that you could work on with your little one at home. But I believe that is all I have, Ms. Kelly.
Thanks so much, Ms. Kaysen and Ms. Parks. We're going to be moving to the next segment of tonight's event and discussing the questions people submitted in advance and answering those questions. And Ms. Kaysen and Ms. Parks, for this particular segment, if there are any answers that you want to elaborate on or share any team specific information, please just jump in at any time. The name of the feature is called Ask It Basket. Excuse me. Okay, you should see it now. We had quite a few parents who asked, how are my child's grades? How's my child doing? So for those who are not registered or who may not know about this resource, on our school's website, there's a link to what's called the Focus Parent Portal. Also, your children, when they're logged into their ColumbiaK12.com account, can log into Focus at any time and pull up their grades. So if you're not registered though, and you want to see that information when you're not with your child, you'll receive a copy of this slideshow with the link where you can visit that site. You'll be able to see your child's grades at any time as teachers are putting grades in, and update your contact information. If it changes at any point, we have phone numbers that change, addresses that change, so that the school has the most up-to-date information. And this connects to the next question. We had a parent who at our spring virtual parent conferences shared that she was told to look on Focus to see what her child's missing assignments were. But when she looked up the assignments, based on the descriptions, her child couldn't tell her anything about the assignments. And so she wasn't sure if everything that needed to be completed got completed. So what's listed here are some suggestions to hopefully avoid having missing assignments. Also, one thing that is suggested, if reviewing your child's grades, you see an assignment description listed and you don't understand the description to know what the assignment was, and your child is saying that they don't know what it is either, then you'll reach out to the teacher, just specifically with the name of the way the assignment is described, and just ask for more information so that you'll have an understanding of what that potential assignment is.
Ms.
Also,
Kelley, can I jump
please
in
jump in anytime.
So about the missed assignments, if you ever look on Focus and you see a 1 for the assignment, that's what that means. That means it's a missing assignment. We basically put that in there, and I know middle school does this. We put that in there basically to get parents' attention and say, hey, what is this? How do you get a 1 on something? And then, I've had parents email me, what is this? It's just to get you to notice something, because if we leave it blank, then, they may think we haven't graded it yet, and we put a 0 and it's not really a 0. So 1 basically means it's missing, it's not finished, or, it's something that needs to be turned in. So if you see a 1, I know middle school does this. My middle schooler had a 1, and then we, ask questions, got it done. So you see that, that's probably what that means.
Thank you, Ms. Parks, for explaining that. And I'm encouraged to know that, as students transition to the other middle school, that they're going to see something similar. One unique challenge that this school year presented to us is that we had quite a few of our students at the beginning of the year who were on virtual instruction, and our teachers, many of them were already using virtual resources. But this is just a suggested activity, anytime. If you have or your child has a computer or smartphone, ask your child to log on to Google Classroom, iReady, and any other online programs that they use in school for each of their classes, so that you can see how assignments are given and how their assignments are supposed to be submitted. with the particular parent who asked this question, it turned out that some of the missing assignments were assignments that were through online platforms, and the child had not submitted them. She did the work, but she didn't submit it. And so that gives you an understanding of whether your child knows how to submit assignments or not, and if they're actually completing the work. We stress responsibility and organization in 6th grade because they are making that transition to being responsible for multiple classes. So we encourage you just continuously check the parent portal and focus for updates and grades. We had a parent to ask for a list of the standards. One of the items we shared tonight was the Florida standards for reading, and then we shared the Florida standards for math and where your child was in terms of January, February in regards to mastery of those standards. But at the beginning of the year, through all of our platforms, we sent out our Title I annual meeting and open house presentation since we couldn't meet in person. And as a part of that presentation, we included the links to all the resources that were shared, including a parent guide for language arts and math, and Florida standards for every subject. Another resource that's available online if your child needs help with the skill, and Ms. Parks listed a few, and you'll receive a copy of tonight's presentation, so you'll get a copy of that as well. There's a site called floridastudents.org that was created by the state of Florida through Florida State University. If they go to that site, there are tutorials online for many of the skills and the standards that the kids encounter in 6th grade that are aligned to the Florida standards. So those are some resources that are available, to our families in order to help the children reach mastery. To see the entire presentation, the link, will be included in the information for tonight, or you can just specifically choose the resource that's specifically for what you need. For FSA preparation information, we're sending out 2 videos online through our media platforms that have an FSA review. I will share, and Ms. Parks, thank you so much for sharing that for the resources for FSA practice, that you'd rather the kids work on it in class with you. For any resources that are shared or that you gain access to, I do encourage you to reach out to the teacher just to make sure that the resource is not being addressed in class first, okay? But these will be posted for remote viewing. I will go ahead and share with you I'm having a hard time getting into it, but the presentation has our, oh my goodness gracious. The presentation has our FSA dates. Our first assessment, which is the writing, Ms. Kaysen shared, next week the students will be taking the writing test next Wednesday, for the reading test and for the math test. Those are going to be held the 2nd and 3rd week in May. For in-person students, the dates have been released. We're still working some kinks out with our Columbia homeroom students. And I only share that because there may be a Columbia homeroom parent or 2 that watch this presentation. Quite a few parents asked how students can select classes. This was before the green elective forms went home with all students last week. If your child has not yet turned in their form, and even if they have, LCMS on their website has posted an education fair presentation since they weren't able to host our children this year. As a part of that video, they talk about each of the electives and the kinds of skills and activities that kids would do in those electives. If you need more information, we're including the link for you to visit that site. And you can also visit LCMS's site to learn more about Lake City Middle School. There is a notice on their website that all incoming 7th graders are going to be required to have what's called a TDAP booster before they enter 7th grade. So if you have any questions about that, please contact the nurse at LCMS for more information. And finally, we had quite a few parents in terms of their specific child who asked what else they can do to help their children be successful in school. We're sharing all of the web links that were presented tonight, along with the resources that the teachers shared. Stay in contact with your children's teachers. And if you haven't met with your child's teachers this year, and everyone who registered for Team B session has, but we just encourage people to schedule a parent conference if they have not. If any further information or breakdown is needed in regards to what we're sharing, please reach out to me, including my phone number, or you can reach out to me through the Remind account or by my email, and then we can speak further about what your child needs. We have resources in our parent resource room at the school that we can send home to you that the teachers aren't using in class that can give them specific practice as well. So if we've shared a lot this evening, so if there's anything that you still need or that you need just more support with, where to start first or what to work with your child on at your child's level, please reach out. You can reach out to me or you can reach out to the teachers, but my information is included because we do have resources here that we can share that aren't already being used in the classroom. So with that, just want to thank everyone who's watching, whether you're in attendance tonight or whether you're watching virtually the recording. And we just want to know if you have any questions for us, if there's anything you would like to share with your children's teachers, and just connect. So I'm just going to turn it over and say thank you so much. And if anyone has any questions or comments or information to share, just please feel free to unmute and do so. Oh, wow, nobody's unmuting. So we have that awkward silence moment going on. So that's okay. If no one has anything they'd like to ask or anything they'd like to share, we're just going to thank you so much, Ms. Kaysen, Ms. Parks, for hopping on tonight and presenting. And thank you so much to everyone who's in attendance virtually live or virtually as you're watching the recording. So I'm going to bid everyone a good evening. Parents, you will be receiving a survey so that you can share your comments and feedback for us in regards to this event. This was an event that we were hoping to host as a school back in January, but due to the delayed start in the year, we had a delayed start to the semester, which means we didn't have the information in regards to where the kids were in terms of progress at that time. And due to some other conflicts, we got scheduled to now. So I apologize for that, but we're hoping that we share some information that's helpful, just as your children continue their journey through school. If you need anything from us, please reach out. And I just hope and pray everyone has a great evening and enjoy this spring weather. It's wonderful. So have a great night.